This morning, Tyler, I was walking Trixie Dixie, and we go out on the trail, and then right there, a deer staring at us like, hi.
Hello.
What are you doing? The crazy thing is Trixie doesn't bark and go crazy.
Right.
She wants to play with him. But when I went on Facebook, one of the first videos that popped up this morning, the West Bloomfield Police Department, some of our fine officers in blue did a little bit of an animal rescue yesterday. Always fun to start your Monday off with an animal rescue. Curt Lawson with us, Deputy Chief for the West Bloomfield Police Department. Did you see the video? I'm sure you did.
I did see the video about 5 o'clock this morning. It was sent to me, and I don't have a lot of information, a lot of specific details, but I wanted to get that out on social media because the men and women of our department, again, going beyond the call of duty. They're helping out turtles and birds and turkeys, and now, they're helping out baby deer. So I think it's great.
It is an adorable video, so you can find it on their Facebook page. But, and with that as well, though, Curt, and we've talked about this numerous times, it really is humanizing the badge, letting people know that the men and women that are serving, they are just regular people as well. And we really need to connect with the community.
Exactly, and some of our new officers actually have brought up the fact that, why do we do this social media as much as we do? And I said it's a lot about marketing. It's about humanizing the badge. It was great what you just said, is letting people know that we're really just like our residents, right? We're people, we have families, we have kids, and kind of like bridging that gap. So anytime we can put stories out that, whether we're saving a turtle or a deer, or like this past Sunday, we had 3 missing people that we were able to help locate. That goes to bridge that gap between us and the community, and that's what we do so well here, and that's why we're so successful.
And so with that, too, can you give us a little bit more detail about the missing individuals?
Sure. We had a very busy Sunday. Got a call early Sunday about 9 o'clock. There's a 92-year-old male dementia patient that had walked away. And we did just a full court press. It was 82 degrees. He does not have the ability to take care of himself. So we had all of our officers out there that were on duty. We brought in our K-9 units. We brought in the Oakland County Sheriff's Department. We reached out to the West Bloomfield Fire Department that activated our Oakway system, which then brought in Bloomfield Township and Waterford and Royal Oak to assist us and try to find this individual. And approximately 1 p.m., he was found in a wooded area, not far from his house, but actually laying down on the ground. So, situations like this where there's missing people that are vulnerable, it's a full court press to do what we can, and it worked out very well. And then later in the day, we had a missing 9-year-old who had been missing for approximately 3 hours. So obviously that's a great concern to us. And once again, we mobilized our people, and she was found safe in an apartment. She was actually visiting a friend. And the parents didn't know. And then just a short time later, we had a missing 8-year-old female. And this is where social media and our great relationship with the community comes to be such a positive. Officers were out looking for her. They saw a mom and a daughter walking on Maple. They took the time to stop, to engage those 2 individuals, to tell them who we were looking for. And just a very short time later, the mom and the daughter heard some moaning from the bushes, and they were able to discover this 80-year-old woman who we probably would not have discovered if it wasn't for these people walking down the pathway. So we were able to get that elderly person to safety, and at the end of the day, everyone was okay.
Wow, and because we've all covered the stories where the outcomes have not been as uplifting and good as the outcomes in these situations, but it really is a game changer, social media, and having that connection with the community and having people look for them as well, because, a few hundred eyes are a lot better than just the ones that are on duty that day.
Correct. My first social media post that day, Sunday, I think we were right around 6,000 or 7,000 people that were interacting on that post throughout within the community. So that's just a great asset to have, and I'm really proud of my team that helps me to deal with Facebook, the Twitter, and Instagram that we use pretty much every day.
Can you also talk a little bit? There was some incident with the dog and a shooting incident. Can you fill us in? What was that all about?
Sure. On June 6th, we got a call from multiple residents that there was a pit bull that had been running around the neighborhood, and they wanted to file a complaint. They just had enough of it. It had been going on for quite some time. So we sent some officers out there, and they were able to identify the responsible owner of that dog. It was a black pit bull. They were speaking to the owner, and the owner happened to say, hey, my dog was shot by my neighbor. So now the investigation is getting a little bit bigger. We're going to have to investigate having a shooting in a neighborhood right by Walnut Lake Road in Middlebelt there. We went and interviewed the responsible person, the person that had actually shot at the dog. He admitted to it, said that he was in fear for his life. So basically at this point, we're gathering information from the person that did the shooting, from the dog owner, from all of the neighbors. We did interviews with everyone. And then we submitted that to the Oakland County Prosecutor's Office, and they're going to review that to see what kind of charges, if any, are going to be put out there, whether it's the dog owner or the person that discharged the firearm in the neighborhood.
So with that, Curt, what is the law? I mean, if it's my dog and it gets loose, I mean, I'm responsible for the dog, right?
Correct. And we prefer that people don't shoot at dogs in the neighborhoods, with Walnut Lake Road as the backstop.
Right.
But obviously, if you're in fear of your life, if you feel you're in imminent danger of getting attacked by someone else or a dog, you have a right to defend yourself. But we're going to push that up to the prosecutor's office, a fresh set of eyes on that to see if it was justified or not.
And it's so hard because, we've had these horrific cases in Detroit, where little kids have been mauled. But also there was the case where, a lady was being attacked, and the guy was trying to get the dog off and shot at the dog, but missed and hit the lady who was being attacked by the dog. So it can be, the outcomes we never know of these situations.
Right. The ordinance in West Bloomfield is you have to have control of your dog, at least very minimally by verbal command, but also by, we recommend a 6-foot leash or some kind of leash. I remember years ago I was running up in Clarkston, and a dog came running down the driveway and, started biting me. And it's pretty traumatic. I'm kind of a big guy, but still, if I could have got on top of a car really quick, I would have. It was pretty frightening.
Yeah, well, I'm always afraid of the Chihuahuas. They're little but thick. Right. Curt Lawson here with us on the Megacast. He's the Deputy Chief for the West Bloomfield Police Department. And, Curt, I know there's a series of bills making its way through Lansing right now talking about police reform. I hope and I feel like we have finally gotten over using the term defunding the police, because I think most people by now recognize we need police officers. It's really more about training. Correct.
I mean, I think it's about training. I think it's about consistency in how we respond to mental health issues in the community. It's about education standards. It's about robust policy procedures, and probably the number one thing is building trust and legitimacy with the people that we police. Because if you're in a community that does not think you're legitimate or doesn't trust you, you're not going to be successful.
So with that, what are your thoughts on the state of policing today?
It's not great. I got to be honest with you. It's not great. There is and has been a significant distrust of the police by minority citizens throughout this country. Some of it is, I think a lot of it is very justified. However, I'm a true believer that a vast majority of law enforcement people are in it for the right reasons, that they are not racist. The incidents that we have seen are horrific incidents on the news, but it's a very small percentage of the millions and millions of contacts that we have with residents and citizens on a daily basis. But there does need to be reform. There needs to be consistency. We need to put the right leaders in place. I know I've told you this before. We really need to put the right leaders in place that demand transparency, community partnerships, and accountability for their people. We still have a long way to go in law enforcement. But I think all the negativity that we've seen in the media directed at law enforcement is taking a significant toll. We're seeing what I would call a brain drain from law enforcement. We're having our leaders, our senior people with all this experience getting out of the profession. And then the individuals that we're seeing applying to be police officers is what I would think is not the level that I would like to see it, which is going to cause us to have a negative effect down the road in the profession.
Yeah, I mean, the long-term impact of what's going on right now, because at some point in time, you have to hire people. You need to have officers. And what you don't want to do is, loosen the requirements to be able to fill those spots.
And I think that's what's happening. If you look at major cities, New York, Chicago, where there's literally thousands of officers walking out the door, and on the back end of that, they're hiring subpar individuals, some with criminal records, very little education, very little training. That is a major problem. And I told you this before, when I was hired in, there was 250 people that applied for 3 positions. Last month, we had 6 open positions, and we had 6 people apply, and we didn't take any of them. Wow. So it's a problem. It's a concern, and it's just not here in Michigan. It's across the country.
Yeah, and we should point out, too, it's state, local, and federal. Everyone is going through this situation as well. And even, if you get a good candidate, there are a lot of steps of getting hired. It's not like, going to any place right now where you can basically get hired on the spot because everyone is short employees. There's a process that goes along. What is the typical hiring time frame? Is it 6 months, a year?
Well, it depends if they're going to go to the police academy or not. So, we have to have the test. We have to have the oral interview. We have to have the background. We have to have the chief's interview. So it's a process, and we're looking for ways, kind of like what we've seen in private industry, of ways to attract new talent. And, whether that's going to be signing bonuses or laterals. Really, pensions are a thing of the past, and I understand that, but we're going to have to find ways to attract a broader audience to this profession.
So, Curt, how does it work at West Bloomfield? Do they need to have already paid for themselves to go through the police academy, or does West Bloomfield put them through it?
So if you're a police service aide here at our front desk, after a period of 1 year, if you pass the test and the oral interview, we will put you through the academy. It's an expense of $5,000 or $6,000, but everyone else has to put themselves through the academy, which is kind of a problem because while you're going to that police academy for 6 months, you really can't have a full-time job. So the question is, how do they support themselves when there's no income coming in as they're going through the police academy? So it's really something that we're reviewing. We've had multiple meetings with the township officials on ways that we can continue to kind of be the leader in hiring and a destination point, which we have been for the last 25 years that I've been here.
With that, again, Curt Lawson with us here on the MegaCast. He's the Deputy Chief for the West Bloomfield Police Department. And if we can talk, one thing is they're talking about having a registry that would basically track law enforcement officers that do get in trouble at maybe one department and then just jump to another department or another department. There's been a lot of incidents with Highland Park Police Department and them having some of the officers that maybe got in trouble at their previous employment. Should we have some type of registry for the open to the public, just like we do for doctors or lawyers?
I think that's a viable option. I think it needs to be really thought through, though. One of the things I heard discussed was every time an officer gets a citizen complaint, it's going to go into a registry. Well, people can complain about me every single day, but it doesn't mean it's justified. And I think every time someone makes a complaint because they don't like my hair or something, that shouldn't go into a registry if that it's not true, right? So I think it should be verified offenses. There is a concern, I know, among executives here, police executives throughout the state of Michigan, about individuals that are released or they resign from one department and then they just go work at another department. And those are the individuals that we need to get out of law enforcement. So I'm open to taking a look at what laws are going to be discussed and brought forward.
And we should also note, too, there are so many different jobs within the police department. So if you're someone who is a detective, maybe undercover on the narcotics team, there's a good chance you're going to have more complaints against you than maybe the neighborhood police officer. So, that's where you really need the professionals to help guide and police the own department as well.
Correct. And I think that's where we've seen some failures and I talked about the importance of leadership. The leaders need to make these difficult decisions sometimes and hold people accountable.
Curt Lawson with us here on the MegaCast. So if you've been thinking about going into law enforcement and you are the type of person that the West Bloomfield Police Department wants, please consider joining the team, because the good thing about you're not only engaged with the community, but you're also a very diverse department as well. And I think that makes for a great department.
I totally agree with you. And I think that's one thing as we move forward in law enforcement is, attracting a more diverse group, letting minorities be part of the solution and help us, repair kind of the image of law enforcement, always like knocking heads with minorities. Because, here in West Bloomfield, like you said, we have a huge minority population. We have a great relationship. Our last millage passed 82%. So it's just something that's really unheard of. And we have a good thing going here. And I think it's a great model for other communities to follow.
Hey, Curt, just another minute or two here with you on the show. But before we let you go, I was on your Facebook page earlier, and I know a few days ago there was also a scam alert that you had posted with Amazon. Do you want to talk about that?
Well, we have different scams on a daily basis. So it's very hard to keep up. I know that a majority of us, certainly my wife, use Amazon a lot. So when you get a call that someone has breached your Amazon account and that you're going to be out $3,000 or $4,000 unless you do A, B, and C immediately, that puts a lot of pressure on people. And we saw several cases come across our desks a couple weeks ago, and that we wanted to push that out to our community to be aware. I know I've gotten several calls over the last month that there's a warrant for my arrest. So that's concerning. So, we continue to have these scams, and we just try to push them out. When we see an influx of a certain type of scam, we get it out on our social media. Because
can you really even investigate some of these?
Well, we do a pretty good job with it because we have the resources, but most departments, quite honestly, cannot. And, these scams often lead out of the country or out of the state, which limits our ability.
Yeah, cybersecurity is such a big issue right now. And if I was a really smart kid and good on computers, it'd be a great industry to go into.
Oh, absolutely. And that's a huge concern is, data breach, ransomware, someone coming in and locking down all of our data and demanding a ransom. That's certainly a huge concern. And we've seen that across the country. Or just someone coming in and completely locking us out of our data systems. So it's a huge concern, not only in the public sector, but also the private sector.
You're listening to 89.3 WBLD Orchard Lake, 88.1 WBFH Bloomfield Hills. Curt, always great having you with us. We appreciate your time today.
Thank you. It was a pleasure. Nice to see you.